What's up everyone, and thank you for stopping by the channel. Today's project is this Husqvarna chainsaw, and the problem is that the carburetor will sometimes leak fuel. Let's take a good look at it, find out what's wrong with it, and hopefully we can fix it. In this video, we try and repair this chainsaw. However, it may not be the exact repair that you need to make to yours. We'll explore other options later in the video. In a previous video, we fixed a serious fuel leak problem that turned out to be a broken fuel line. I replaced all the lines and the primer bulb, which cracked right after I took it off. However, the carburetor would leak a few drops of fuel quite randomly and then stop. Now, the air filter also has a lot of fuel staining on it, and so it was leaking like this for quite some time. Now, this saw runs fine with the current carburetor, but I want to make sure that it doesn't leak in the future. So the easiest way to fix it is just to replace it. So I ordered a brand new carburetor from Amazon, and the best part was that it also came with extra parts that I also needed. This kit comes with a new air filter, which I definitely need. I've already replaced it, but it comes with a new primer bulb as well, so I guess I have an extra one now. This, of course, is the carburetor, which we'll take a look at here in a second. What's really handy is it comes with a carburetor adjusting tool. Now, depending upon your location, you may have to adjust it to get it to run just right. And of course, new fuel lines, which I already replaced in the last video. I'll save these for another project then. The first thing I need to do then is to remove the top cover, followed by the handle assembly. Now, before we can remove the assembly from the rest of the saw, we also have to disconnect the throttle linkage from the trigger. To get full access to the carburetor, we also have to remove this panel on the rear side of the chainsaw. After that's done, we can then remove the filter retainer plate, the air filter, and then the screw and the nuts that hold the filter base and the carburetor to the engine. Before removing the fuel lines, make a note where they all go first. Now, this line coming out of the left side of the fuel tank goes to the right side brass port on the carburetor, and the fuel line from the shorter port on the primer bulb goes straight down to the brass port on the left side of the carburetor. After that, remove these two fuel lines and then slide the carburetor off the studs. Before I reinstall the new one, I want to put them side by side and make sure they look pretty much the same from all the sides. If it's not the same, contact the seller and inform them, and they will confirm if it will work or not. Now, this new one looks almost identical to the old one, and that means I can start removing the throttle linkage, the choke lever, and the fuel line. Move them over to the new carburetor and then reinstall it back onto the engine. Now, the fuel lines are long enough that you can reconnect them first and then slide them back onto the engine studs. Another reason why you should replace your carburetor instead of taking it apart and cleaning it is that sometimes the carburetor rebuild kits are almost as much as a cheap carb to begin with, so it doesn't make sense spending money and time for a chance for it to work versus a very high chance that it will work with a new carburetor. Now, I've replaced a lot of them and I don't remember one of them not working. And finally, replace the old air filter with the new one from the kit. Now, this one needed just a little bit of trimming to get it to fit like the old one, but it wasn't that difficult. Replace the filter retainer plate, the back part of the case, and the handle assembly, and please don't forget to reconnect the throttle linkage to the trigger and the handle. After that, I'll start it up and make any adjustments to the carburetor that it may need. Now, I'm going to spoil it for you. I did get the saw to start and run, but it wouldn't stay running, so I had to use the provided adjusting tool to add some fuel to keep it running. Now, most of the carburetors are preset from the factory a little on the lean side, so depending upon where you live, it may be perfectly set or just a little bit off. Like I said earlier, it's running a bit lean on fuel during idle, so I had to use the adjusting tool to turn the L screw counterclockwise about a quarter turn. Now, adding fuel at idle has the effect of slowing the engine speed down a little bit, so I had to turn the idle adjusting screw clockwise a bit to bring it back up. It's best to tune the engine while it's running, so I'm going to use text to tell you what's going on as I tune it. So it seems to be running just fine, but I will adjust the idle again after I do a cold start because it's still just a little bit high. So my question is, did this video give you enough confidence to tune your own carburetor? Now, I don't normally go into this much detail during tuning, as it's best to tune while the engine is running, and I usually turn the engine off to explain what's going on. I had to resort to using the text feature instead. I know how I feel about it, but I'm more curious about what you think. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask any questions, and I hope to see you in my next video.